As a kid, I can remember scrolling through the Nintendo eShop on my 3DS for hours upon hours, admiring the large amount of games that I just couldn't afford. One fateful day, while scrolling through the rabbit hole of games, I came across one that really stood out to me: Style Savvy Trendsetter. As a child who loved everything fashion, I had to have this game. I remember begging my mom for weeks to buy it for me. Unfortunately, I never did end up getting it, but I sure did play the fashion contest demo like my life depended on it. In recent years, I was able to revisit these games in totally legitimate ways, and it got me to thinking, where did this all begin? So today, let's take a deep dive into the world of Style Savvy. The Man Breeze was founded on June 19th, 1995 as an independent video game development studio. They released their very first game to a Japanese audience in 1996, Virtual Pro Wrestling. This game would later be re-released in America under the title WCW vs. the World. The game wasn't anything too crazy, but for the time, the wide selection of gaming modes was unheard of. Electronic Gaming Monthly claimed that the game was probably the best 32-bit wrestling game to date, but there wasn't much else to compare it to at the time, so this wasn't very significant. In 1997, the company would rename itself to AKI Corporation, just in time for the release of WCW vs. NWO World Tour and Virtual Pro Wrestling 64. AKI Corporation would continue to develop games in this genre all throughout the early to mid 2000s, before rebranding again in 2007, now going under the well-known name Syn Sophia. At this point, Syn Sophia had been making wrestling and fighting related games for almost a decade now, and were itching to make something new. Before I get into Syn Sophia's line of fashion games, I wanted to go over the weird naming system they followed. Every country these games were released in technically go under a different franchise name. Girls Mode in Japan, Girls Style in Korea, Style Savvy in North America, and finally Style Boutique in Europe. For the simplicity of this video, I will be referring to the games as Style Savvy, but know that in different regions they did get different names. I'd also like to quickly thank all the people who commented on my last video telling me how I was saying the game's name wrong. I now know how to pronounce it properly, and I'm sorry to anyone who had to listen to me pronounce the name wrong for a full video. In early 2008, Nintendo released a trailer for a new and upcoming fashion game, known as Style Savvy, which would be developed by Syn Sophia. Unlike other fashion games of the time, Syn Sophia wanted to give players a full fashion experience by allowing them to run their very own boutique. In this game, you're responsible for things like stocking up on items at a variety of unique shops, dressing up characters depending on their request, participating in fashion shows, giving interviews to magazines to make your brand more popular, and much more. Syn Sophia wanted Style Savvy to feel like you were actually running and managing your own shop, which was something really unseen at the time, at least to this degree. Also, in an attempt to make the game stand out, one of the main functions of the game was holding your DS sideways in order to play. On October 23, 2008, Style Savvy would officially reach store shelves in Japan for the Nintendo DS, marking a significant pinpoint in video game history. The game would then later release in Europe and North America in late 2009, helping it reach 2.9 million copies sold. Critics praised this game for just how good the graphics were for a DS game, and the sheer amount of items you could choose from. Many did complain though that the game was too repetitive and got boring over time. Overall, the game received mixed to average reviews according to Metacritic. Even though the critics weren't crazy about this game, the players were, marking the beginning of the Style Savvy franchise. After the success of Style Savvy, Syn Sophia knew they had found a gold mine. So, in 2012, they released Style Savvy Trendsetter. The game wasn't much different from the first, but it did polish a lot of mechanics from the previous title, which critics found to be boring or repetitive. Nintendo Life said, "Style Savvy Trendsetter is a beautiful game which offers an incredible variety of content, boasts addictive gameplay, and makes excellent use of the 3DS's features. Like its up-and-coming fashionista protagonist, Style Savvy is confident, fun, and charming." Although the game was received well by critics and players alike, Trendsetter only sold 1.44 million copies, nearly half as much as the original Style Savvy. Overall, the game was still a success, and Syn Sophia wanted more. Jumping forward to 2015, Syn Sophia would release Style Savvy Fashion Forward. This game added a ton of new content to the series, such as the ability to design your own articles of clothing, the option to be a makeup artist and hairstylist for customers, and the addition of earrings, which are weirdly in the same slot as glasses. Overall, the game was received just as well as Trendsetter, selling 1 million copies total. In a review for the game back in 2016, Crystal Dreamer US said that, overall, Style Savvy Fashion Forward is an amazing game in the series. Character customization is great and I really enjoy all the new features. Interior and exterior customization needs a huge upgrade though, and should have not been downgraded this much. Hopefully the next game in the series can be even better. And that would be the case, well, sort of. Just 2 years after the release of Fashion Forward, Syn Sophia would release their most recent and probably final game in the series, Style Savvy Styling Star. This game is known by many as a definitive version of Style Savvy. This game features everything from the previous titles, has arguably the most interesting story yet, and adds one of the most revolutionary features. For the first time in Style Savvy history, you're able to dress up male characters. Now, you aren't actually able to sell these male items out of your own boutique, rather out of a substore that just serves male customers. But still, the fact you could dress men in Styling Star was a step in the right direction, as many have been craving this feature for years. Styling Star had all the right elements to succeed, except for one. The game never got a physical release. Because of this, the game became a lot less accessible than the previous titles, causing it to only sell 450,000 copies. Syn Sophia took this drop in sales to heart, as Styling Star would be the last game in the franchise. The most interesting thing in this whole video is probably Fashion Famous, which was a concept game made up by fans who desperately wanted a new addition to the series. Despite it being fake, many mistaken this mock-up to be real, including myself. If you read the numerous pages on it, it claims that the game was released in 2029 on the Switch 2, talking as though the game had already been released. Although this game isn't real and most likely will never be real, I do recommend reading the highly detailed wiki on it, which I'll link in the description down below. Just earlier this month, Syn Sophia released Fashion Dreamer for the Nintendo Switch. Many were under the impression this was a new game in the Style Savvy franchise, but technically speaking, they are completely disconnected from one another besides having the same creators and similar concepts. The game hasn't been out for long, but it's already gotten low to mixed reviews, as many were disappointed in the game's lack of content. I actually recently just did a whole video detailing this game, so if you'd like to learn more about it, I'll link that video in the description down below. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I'm still trying to get my little channel off the ground right now, so anything you can do to support me would mean the world. I also want to say thank you for all the support that I got on my last video. I was not expecting to get as many views, comments, and likes as I did, but I appreciate every single one of you that's joined the Star family. With that, that's all for today. Goodbye, my stars.